All right, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the July Recreational Astronomy Night of the Toronto Centre of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. My name's Tom Luton. I'll be your host this evening. Tonight's presentations, we've got Claudio Oriani with The Sky This Month, Shraddha Pai with Moonbows and Milky Ways, my stargazing adventure in the rainforests of Kauai, and finishing up with Frank Dempsey and giving us an update on the variable star T Corona Borealis. And then we're going to have announcements done by myself because our president, Scott Masterton, is away. So without further ado, actually, one piece of ado. Is anyone here for the first time? Welcome. Round of applause, please. All right, so let's get the show going with Claudio Oriani in The Sky This Month.
Thank you, Tom, and hello, everyone. Happy July, and I'm here to talk about the sky for the month of July. So we have so many things happening. I don't want to waste more time about all the stuff, but I will talk about these pictures here for someone else before, and just stay tuned. Let's start. So what do we have in the sky for this month? Lots happening. So we are getting further away from the sun. Tomorrow with aphelion, and we don't really feel that it's colder. Actually, it's very hot. It's just a few million kilometers more than usual. We see the Summit Triangle stars, and you see Vega, Altair, and Deneb behind the sky, this triangle of very bright stars. That means that this summer, finally. If you're going away from the city, you see the Milky Way galactic core from the dark sky, Scorpius, with the red supergiant Antares. In a few million years, it will turn into supernova. We don't know yet when. And of course, looking at the teapot, the Sagittarius, so there are lots of narrowband targets, the Lagoon, Trifid Nebula. If you remember the picture of the first slide, there were two of them, and I will go back. Venus is the brightest object in the sky, in the morning sky, followed by Jupiter. Finally, it's back in late July. Mercury reaches its greatest elongation on July the 4th, so it's visible very low in the sky after sunset. Better from the southern observers, but we can have a look at Mercury in the next few days. Mars is still visible at sunset in the western sky and sets before midnight red. You can't be wrong with Mars. Saturn is finally back and will rise before midnight later in July. Pluto will reach opposition on July 24. If you have a big telescope, you can maybe try to take images if you know where to look at. Long exposure. And that's quite new because southern observers can now observe two novae simultaneously, and they're both visible to the unaided eye. I don't recollect that this never happened before. So we have a V variable 462 Lupi and variable 572 Velorum. They're both very low. So Velorum, forget about it. It's not visible from our latitude. The star in Lupi, it's technically possible. It's very low to the horizon. We go back to that star later. And of course, I know Frank is talking about the Corona Borealis. Maybe you're going to have three naked eye novae. Let's see. And we also have a meteor shower, the Delta Aquarid meteor shower that peaks around July 29, 31st. So not one of the brightest, but you can have up to 20 meteors per hour. So let's talk about how many hours of darkness we have. Little bit only, because we have 15 hours of 22 minutes of daylight today, and August is not going to be much better. We have one more hour of observing night because we have 14 hours of daylight. That means that today we have only 3 hours and 58 minutes of imaging time. I did my homework. In August, we gain almost 2 hours darkness. It's never very dark for our latitudes, but you know that just 3 hours. It's getting dark around 11 p.m. And if you do astro images, you know what I mean. You have to be up late. Let's look at the sky. This is from Stellarium. And again, if you go in a location when you're dark sky, you can see the bright Milky Way, in the south, 11:30 p.m. You see that there are the summer constellation. You can see Scorpio. You see Sagittarius. And Eagle, the Aquila, to the left. So that's the shape of the Milky Way, our galaxy. And if you look there, I was mentioning the nova in Lupi. So that's technically possible to see, but again, it's 6 degrees above the horizon at its maximum. It's there where I put this square. So basically, that's where the star is located. So if you see Scorpio, we don't see, because this is much farther south, but this is where the nova was visible. And it was 6.3 degrees above the horizon. Magnitude was 5.6 on June 21st. I believe it's still above the naked eye visibility, but it's that's very, very difficult to see. You can try if you have a dark spot and a southern horizon that is free from trees and light pollution. You can try. If you look at northeast, you see the Aquila and getting higher, and also start looking Cassiopeia to the very left, and Pegasus is there. But there are so many narrowband targets visible there. I will go there later. You see Cepheus, Cygnus, and all these squares, the green squares on the image on the map, are narrowband targets. Northwest, you can see again Cepheus, and then the Ursa Major is still high in the sky. You can still see some of the beautiful galaxies there. And then looking southwest, tonight you see the moon, and Leo is setting now. Arcturus is still up high in the sky. If you look overhead, you have the opportunity to see lots of globular cluster. So Hercules, you have a M13, M92, all these yellow spots here. And Ophiuchus, also beautiful globular clusters. What about the sun? Again, we reach aphelion in July 3rd, 2025, so tomorrow. And this is a little bit farther than usual. Orbit of our planet is almost circular, so you don't really see the difference, but that's something interesting to see. Of course, the sun is moving along the ecliptic, passing through the zodiac constellation. Sun is in Gemini until July the 20th, and then is moving Cancer. We don't see from here because the sun is obviously bright, but just to know. And the maximum midday altitude for the month of July of the sun is almost 70 degrees above the horizon. I mentioned to the solar cycle number 25 has passed its peak, probably was last August. And while the overall activity is declining, there are still long-lasting coronal holes. That means that coronal mass ejection equals northern lights are still possible in the coming weeks or months. That's the distance tomorrow. See, the difference is like just a few million kilometers. Tomorrow is on that side. And this is an image of the sun in hydrogen alpha. You can see beautiful prominences, sunspots. They're like inverted colors. Filaments, and that's the structure of the sun with a small 40-millimeter telescope. What about the moon? So the moon will reach apogee to July 5th, 400,000 kilometers, and the perigee will be on July 20, 360 years. So 40,000 kilometer difference between the apogee and the perigee. So that means that you can see the moon getting a little bit bigger, a little bit dimmer in the sky, if you know where to look. What about the phases? So the full moon, the back moon, is on July 10 at 4:37 Eastern Time. I just learned the back moon is because the antlers are growing again this time of the year. Last quarter will be on July, I forgot the day, but there is 7 days after, July 17. New moon will be on July 24. So if you want to observe without the moon in the sky, write the date. And first quarter will be August 1st at 8:41. One more mention about the moon. Tomorrow night, there is a chance to see the lunar X. So there are just some visible features that will be lighted by the moon. You can see with a small telescope, a binocular, a crater that is making the X and more stuff happening. You can also see a LOVE, so love on the moon. Like Brescia, I always like to show this animation of the moon. That means that our tidal forces are just making the moon wobbling. So we see a little bit more than 50% of the moon because the tidal forces. We can see 59% of the moon. A little bit more on the north, the south, the east, and the west. And these are the opportunities to see pieces of the moon. They are not usually visible. So on July 8, you can see more of the northern part of the moon. On July 13, you can see more of the western limb of the moon, and so on. July 22nd, you see the southern part of the moon, the southern pole, and the eastern part will be more visible on July 27. There are so many things happening with the moon and planets and stars this month. So on July 16, the waning gibbous moon will be near Saturn before sunrise. July 21st, the crescent moon will be close to Venus. This is a beautiful opportunity to see both of this object. And on the July 23rd, Moon and Jupiter will be in conjunction before sunrise. While on July 28th, the crescent moon will be near Mars in Virgo, post-sunset. In detail, this is what you can see with the 135 millimeter lens on the DSLR camera. So you see on July 16, Moon and Saturn at 2:30 in the morning, not really easy for people that are going to sleep early, but you can see they're fitting very well. They're nice in the same field of view, 2:30 in the morning. Moon and Venus will be in the same area of the sky, not in the same field of view, but if you have a wide angle lens, you can see the moon, you can see Venus, and on the top you can see the Pleiades. That's a beautiful opportunity to see both more interesting objects together. From my experience, when the moon is very bright, it's very hard to find a balance to also capture a dim object like the Pleiades. I try many times, it's not very successful, but if you can, maybe let me know. On the 23rd, the moon and Jupiter before sunrise are together. You can see Jupiter is just popping up to the right of the moon. The moon is very, very slim. And Moon and Mars will be together at the end of July, on the 28th. That's so beautiful. Not only the planets, the moon is also meeting some bright stars. Spica, tomorrow in Virgo. Antares in Scorpio on July 7. The moon will occult the Pleiades, I mentioned before, and this is a good opportunity before sunrise on July 20. And on the 26th, Regulus and moon will be very close. I can show something in a few seconds. Spica will be back in the same field of view of the moon on the 30th, and August 3rd, Antares will be again north of the moon. That means that the moon orbit is always meeting these bright stars, and sometimes in some places of the earth is also occulting them. Not here, except the Pleiades. So that's tomorrow. The moon and Spica, 10:30 p.m., so easy in the sky. Moon and Antares, they're very close together on July the 7th, 10:30, still prime night, prime time. And then that's one of the highlights. So on July 20, the Moon and Pleiades are together, and actually the Moon will occult the Pleiades. The Moon is a waning, so maybe the difference in brightness can make possible to take beautiful pictures. And look what happened on the 26th. Just after sunset, Moon and Regulus are close together. Look what happened during the day. They are close to the sun, so please look where you're pointing your binoculars, but they are so close, just very close, so there is no occultation from here. I'm sure in some part of the world there will be occultation, not here. They're just together. You take an image of the Moon during the day, 5:55 p.m., maybe a long exposure with some trick with your camera. Maybe you can also see Regulus in daytime. Regulus is one of the brightest stars in the sky. And again, Moon and Spica on July 30, 10 p.m., they're close together. And again, Antares and the Moon are together in the sky on August the 3rd. Let's go on the planet now. So Mercury is visible in the evening, the beginning of the month, and then will disappear because it will dim, it will be very low to the horizon, then disappearing, and then it's going again in conjunction. Venus is the brightest object in the morning sky, while Mars is still visible in Leo in the evening, but is getting dimmer and dimmer. July is also the month when Jupiter will be back in the morning sky. Saturn is a morning object, but by the second half of the month will be visible for the entire night, after midnight and then before midnight. Keep an eye on Saturn because I will go there very soon. There is something very unusual happening in the next few weeks. Uranus is not really visible. We have to wait probably the next couple of months. Neptune is also very close to Saturn, so they're in the same field of view. As I say, Mercury reaches the greatest eastern elongation, so visible the highest in the sky on July the 4th. It's very low in the western sky. After sunset, you can try to take some images of Mercury with some landscape object beginning of July, maybe close to the Moon around the July 6th or 7th. And then it will disappear and go back in the morning sky in August. On July 4th, see Mercury and Mars, very, very interesting, but it's still very, very clear. So it's probably too bright, but you can try to spot them and maybe image them. That's Mercury, first red circle, and that's Mars, the second one. Venus. If you wake up in the morning before sunrise, you can get wrong. On the eastern sky, there is this bright object, and that's Venus, white, early morning twilight. On July 21st, a slender crescent moon passes close to Venus. It is perfect for a dramatic wide field composition. And then it's also near the Hyades and Pleiades later in the month. And the Pleiades will be the occultation, if you remember. This is Venus and the Moon on the 21st. And if you remember, also show the Pleiades there. Venus and the Moon. Mars is still visible in the evening sky. His brightness is only +1. It's still bright enough. It's past its prime time. It's well placed for imaging during the early night. If you have a telescope, you can also spot some details, but it's just 4 arc seconds. So you can really see a little bit. On the 28th, the moon passes near Mars, if you remember the slides I showed before. And Mars and Regulus are always together, not too far away. Last month, they were very close for a few days. It was beautiful to see the movement of Mars during the day. Again, it's 4.6 arc seconds only. That means that you can only spot probably the northern cap, the polar cap, and some other details. Jupiter is returning its -2 magnitude and still low in the morning twilight, but you can see the Galilean moon shadow transit occultations. I didn't want to bother you with all these details. If you have the observer handbooks, it is on page 2026, 2022, but there also the little round shadow of the moons passing in front of the planet. I also find interesting when the shadow of Jupiter is occulting the moon. You can see the moons in the sky around Jupiter, and then suddenly they disappear. That's dramatic. Even you know when this is happening, it's very interesting. I already told about the moon close to Jupiter on the 23rd. And Jupiter is also close to the Hyades cluster. You can try to take some wide field imaging. Saturn, I will spend more time on Saturn for a specific reason. So it will be higher in the sky until early September. We reach the opposition, and the rings will just moving on the other side because of the inclination of the orbit. So they technically disappear for a few days around the end of March, and now they're getting bigger because we are moving on the other side. On July 16, again, there is a waning moon very close to Saturn. And wait, did you know there is a Titan's shadow transit season? Every 13, 15 years, Saturn has a 27-degree axial tilt and the Earth at 23.5 tilt. So combined, when they move in the sky, there's just like a meeting, and when they combine, the view of the rings is changing over time. That also means that for some months, around every 13 to 15 years, transit of a Titan shadow will pass over Saturn, and we can see from here every 16 days. This started in May, every 16 days. So there was another one last night. I would have loved to watch, but I had to present today, so I wanted to be awake. But the next one will be on July 18. This is a universal time, so subtract 4. So 4 o'clock in the morning on July 18 until 9:44 is the maximum the transit. 9:44 is at 5:44 in the morning, and so on. And August 3rd, there is the next one. This is what happens on July 18 from Stellario. Can you see the, this is Titan. This is Saturn, the rings. Can you see the shadow of a Titan on the Saturn? Is there. This is Titan, this is the shadow. 3 o'clock in the morning. This is what happens at 5 o'clock in the morning. See this? And by the way, Titan is the second biggest moon in the solar system and the only one with a thick atmosphere. So you can see the round shadow of the Titan on Saturn. This is kind of unusual. Other moons are always passing in front of Saturn, but they're too small to be really visible. And on August 3rd, again, it's a little bit early, so 2:25 a.m. Maybe I can try this one. When it starts, 4:52, the maximum, when you reach the meridian, and so on. Uranus, not much to say, 5.7 magnitude in Aries, is visible before dawn, but it's really, really dim. So we have to wait, probably next month will be much better. And in September, October will be very, very bright. Neptune. Neptune is sharing, by the way, the same portion of sky of Saturn, and you can imagine them together. They're big difference in magnitude, because if you remember, Saturn is a little bit more than +1, while Neptune is +7.8. But you can also see the yellowish color of Saturn and the blue color of Neptune together. the moon is going close, so maybe you can try to take an image, long exposure, and see if you can spot Neptune. I did during the lunar eclipse, I remember, and there was this blue disk, it was Neptune. Yeah, it can be interesting to find and follow the motion of Neptune with a big telescope. Look what happened on July 14. I mentioned Saturn and Neptune together in the sky with 135 millimeters. By the way, they are in the same area of the sky for the entire month. So pick one day. In this case, it's July 14, but you can see Saturn moving a little bit to the left, and they're like sharing the same area of the sky. Still, red square is a 135 millimeter field of view of a DSLR camera. Deep Sky suggestion, my suggestion, but also Telescopius. This is a free online planning tool I'm always using to see which object high in the sky. And someone is asking why you're taking images of the Crescent Nebula. Because I look at Telescopius and other people observing, and my limited time, I can do this stuff. So Crescent Nebula, I took an image like 2 nights ago, yes. M8, we have to wait a little bit later. In August will be even better. The problem with the M8 and M20 in Sagittarius are very low to the horizon. The signal loop is getting very high. This is one of the best targets you can try to image with a wide angle, because you can image the entire supernova remnant. Let's see the Crescent Nebula. Where is in the sky? This is the Cygnus, and this is the Crescent Nebula. And this is what you can see with, this was my telescope 2 nights ago. And that's just amazing. What is the Crescent Nebula, by the way? It'll be creepy when you see the image. So it's an emission nebula. It's 5,000 light years away. And the powerful stellar wind, that massive Wolf-Rayet star, WR136, is a star that is just ascending, is a shock wave gas. They're just meeting the previous shock wave, and they're just making these waves in the sky. You can see like this star emitting these outer layers in slow motion. And it's so amazing that you can image them from the light polluted sky with a narrowband filter, because the narrowband filter is just removing the entire light pollution and is increasing the hydrogen alpha and the oxygen 3 light wave. If you have a mono camera, you can also try to use S2, sulfur 2, but that's too technical. I don't want to bother you too much. The Lagoon Nebula, so we will see a star that is towards the end of its life. The Lagoon Nebula is a stellar nursery. Where it is? In Sagittarius, near the center of our Milky Way, where the red circle is here. And this is what you can see with the narrowband filter, but it's also a broadband. You can see all these dark spots inside, these little globules. So these are all stellar nursery that block the, I can show you in a few seconds, the Bok globules. So just these globules that are, sorry, too fast. They're just places where the stars are getting born. And this is just something that you look there and then you know that in like 10,000, 100,000 years, there will be a new star there, another new star here. Just amazing. They're very, very beautiful. And in the nearby, there is also the M20, the Trifid Nebula, M20. So if you have a wide lens and a narrowband filter, you can take beautiful images of both the object, M8, the Lagoon, and M20, the Trifid Nebula. And then the Veil Nebula. We talk about a star that is dying, a place where stars are born, but what happens when a big star is exploding? Depending on the mass, it can turn into a red giant, then a white dwarf, or if it's too big, it's turning into a supernova. And the supernova is just releasing all the gas in the sky. The Veil Nebula complex, also known as a Cygnus loop, is there, and this is what you can see. Eastern Veil Nebula, Western Veil Nebula, also known as Witch Broom. Again, is a supernova remnant. It's occupying 3 degrees in the sky. I also know that the people taking picture like 20 years, this you can see the nebula expanding still in the sky. This something happened 10,000 to 20,000 years ago. Unfortunately, we couldn't annotate yet, but for sure it was a very bright supernova. You can see the glowing gas, red and green, oxygen and hydrogen, that are just beautiful in the sky. Again, if you have a wide field set up, you can imagine entire signals loop. I was using a Rockinon 135, and I was able to take the entire supernova remnant. Almost there. Comets, asteroids, and minor planets. No major asteroid position. We are good. No bright comets. Not yet. I was reading it was a new object, interstellar object, just discovered a few days ago. They don't know yet if it's a comet or a planet. The name is so complicated, all letters, numbers, but if you look in the news, you can see. It will be safe distance beyond the orbit of Mars. Pluto will reach opposition July 25th, for those who want to consider Pluto still a planet, like me. Meteor showers, we have the Delta Aquarid. The end of July will be the best time, 29 and 30, around 5 p.m. So it's still early for us, with activity continuing strong into early morning. So that night can be a good night to spot some of the meteors. Not too many, 15 to 25, under optimal dark sky condition. You don't need any tool, just sit down, turn off your phone and look up in the sky. 2 a.m. will reach the maximum peak in altitude. Again, new moon will be on July 23rd, but on July 29 and 30, you have to wait until the moon is set after midnight. You can have some hours of good viewing. But we also have the Perseids. We know that Perseid will reach the maximum in August, but they are very, very active. And we can see that the active period is starting on July 17. So we can have more than 100 meteors per hour. This year, of course, there is a moon on the way. In July, we can see 5 to 15 meteors per hour, but it's very, very possible that you can see very bright fireballs. And around midnight, Perseus is high in the sky by 4 o'clock in the morning. Between July 25th and 31st, the moon will be out of the way, and you can hope to see some of them. International Space Station passes, and we are done. There are a few happening in July. There are almost everything happening during the night, 11:53 and 56. I highlighted the ones that are the best for us. So this is what you can see. I don't know if you can really read, I can't. But yeah, what you can see here is that this is passing almost overhead, and minus 3.6, minus 3.8 magnitude means that is very bright. If you know where to point, even your telescope, you can try to imagine the shape of I never did it, but it's cool to try. And then this is happening again on the 22nd and 23rd. So that's the best one. July 24th, the morning, 4:41 to 4:50. Maximum altitude will be on 4:44, and brightness will be minus 3.8. And with that, I think I'm done. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Claudio. Any questions from the audience? Yes. Go ahead.
For the Perseid occultation, sorry, the Perseid, not the Perseid, the Pleiades occultation.
Okay.
Now I got it. How many of the Pleiades are occulted? Is it just one or two, or a whole bunch?
It always depends on where you are located. So what I can say that is true for me, Richmond Hill, maybe it's not true for you that are in Toronto, because depending on where you're located, the angular position, the moon is close enough, and the Pleiades are like light years. The moon will pass through the Pleiades. It's not occulting all of them, but I expect at least 3 or 4 of them will be occulted by every area in the GTA.
Thank you for a nice talk, Claudio. For visual astronomy, with a small telescope, what filter would you recommend for Venus?
Oh, that's a great question. Depends what you want to see. I can tell that you can use some like moon filter to reduce the brightness of Venus. So you can just see the better contrast. But if you want to see the clouds, I know there are these UV filters. There is like a Venus UV. They're so expensive. This little piece of glass, like $500. And the great thing that you can see the clouds on Venus.
To actually see the phase, what would be the best color? For the phase, what would be the best color filter to use?
Probably yellow filter can reduce the overall brightness. But again, you don't really need a filter. You can easily spot the phases even with binocular.
Thank you.
I have a random question, but do you know when the light from the Veil Nebula reached us?
Oh, I think it's 5,000 light years away. That means that the light we see now started 5,000 years ago. That means maybe it's not even there anymore. Probably it's still there, but right now we see how was 5,000 years ago. There's a beautiful thing about the sky. So you look at Andromeda Galaxy, you look how was 2 million years ago.
No, it's quite cool.
Yeah, it is.
That's how light years and physics works.
Yes. Thank you for this question.
Any other questions? No. All right then.